In this video, we will talk about various calculations pertaining to salaried employees. And before I get started, I want to point out if a salaried employee works less than 40 hours in a week, they will usually be paid for 40 hours. They aren't necessarily penalized like an hourly wage earner would be if they work less than 40 hours. There are two different types of salaried employees. There's salaried exempt, which means that these employees are exempt from receiving overtime, which means no matter how many hours they work, 50, 60, 70, they will not receive overtime. The other category is salaried non-exempt. They are allowed to have overtime, and there's criteria for who fits into each category, but that's not going to be covered in this video. So salaried exempt employees receive no overtime regardless. And for the use of this video, remember there are 52 weeks in a year, 40 hours in a week. That equals 2,080 work hours in a year. Let's say that your annual salary is $34,424. The hours worked that week was 52. Your equivalent hourly pay, if you want to know, well, if I make that much money, how much do I get paid an hour? It's your salary divided by 2,080 hours, or $16.55. Of course, that assumes that you're only working 40 hours a week. If you regularly work 50 hours a week, that dollar per hour is going to be lower. If you want to look at your weekly pay, it's simply just your salary divided by how many weeks are in the year. And your weekly pay would be $662 gross, not factoring in any sort of deductions. Your biweekly pay is simply this times 2 to come up with this. The second type of salaried employee is a non-exempt, like I mentioned earlier, and let's assume that this person does work overtime. Salaried non-exempt employees do receive overtime. And remember, 52 weeks in a year times 40 work hours per week equals 2,080 work hours per year. We're going to assume that the weekly hours worked remains unchanged in this example. Let's assume that your annual salary was $52,460, and let's say that you worked 50 hours this particular week and you do have overtime benefits. So the first thing we have to do is we have to convert your annual salary to a equivalent hourly pay so you can figure out how much overtime to pay you. So if you take your salary divided by the number of work hours in a year, you end up with a average rate of $25.20 per hour equivalent. So we do the same thing like we would do with the hourly wage earner. The regular pay is your pay, which is $25.20 an hour, times the 40 hours, which is the number of hours of regular pay, not including overtime. So you take this number times 40 and you come up with 1,008. The overtime hours are hours above 40. We have 10 hours above 40, so we have 10 hours of overtime, and our overtime pay is the overtime hours times the 1.5 pay premium times your pay. So if you take 10 times 25.20 times 1.5, you come up with this number. Your total weekly pay would just be this number plus this number, and it equals to $1,386. If you worked the same number of hours next week, your bi-weekly pay would simply be twice that.